I just want to start with what I'm sure you're hearing from everyone, which is you did such a fantastic job with this. It is awesome to get to talk to you about the movie. I just want to start with congratulations. But I like asking a curveball at the beginning. I promise it's not hard hitting. If someone has actually never seen anything that you've done before as an actor, what's the first thing you want them to watch and why?
Obviously, I have made things that I'm less proud of in my life as an actress, but I always feel like there's touchstones all the way through. Oh, this worked. Oh, this worked. Oh, this worked. And then this worked, and obviously in between there are some where you're like, oh, those ones didn't work, And I usually feel that the latest thing I did is the most accurate articulation of who I am. Really, I know it's like kind of a strange, like avoiding your question, but I don't act in The Lost Daughter, but it's totally a continuation of my work and my ideas. And I do think it's the thing I would want anyone who wanted to know about me to watch.
I completely agree and understand. What was it about this material, though, that said, I have to make this?
I think it was just how truthful it was, truthful in like a kind of unconscious way. It was a reliable ground to stand on. I think when I read Ferrante, and I read the Neapolitan novels first, and then Days of Abandonment, and then I read The Lost Daughter. But when I was reading those books, and I remember in particular when I first read the first one, I was like, I had never heard some of these truthful things articulated before. Things about, in particular, I think, being a woman in the world, a mother, yes, but also being a lover, a thinker, an artist. And I didn't even know how much I needed to hear them. And I feel like in a way, as a culture, we've made an agreement not to talk about really big aspects of ourselves. And Ferrante broke the agreement, and that kind of shattering of something I found really invigorating, really some sort of terrifying, but also very exciting. And I thought, what if instead of having an experience like that alone in my room with a book, I literally dropped Days of Abandonment, another book of hers. When I was reading it, I was like, fuck this book, like it was like too much. And I thought, what if instead of having these feelings alone, and I also knew I wasn't alone feeling this way, because women, people all over the world, like her books were like flying off the shelves. What if I could put it on screen, and it could be, first of all, a communal experience where you're hearing these truths, actually hearing them, actually seeing them expressed on screen. And you might be sitting next to your mother or your husband or your daughter. That seemed to me like a really radical and exciting thing to try to do.
I commend you so much for bringing this to the screen, because I've had conversations with people that are raw and honest, and it's never depicted in a movie. The real feelings and the real things that people go through. And that's what I think your film does just so brilliantly. But I want to talk a little bit. I love talking about the editing process, because that's ultimately where the film comes together. So I've spoken to a lot of first-time directors, and they talk about how they cherish everything, and they have a tough time letting go of a great scene or a shot because it's so perfect. But so how is it for you in the editing room and sort of telling this story?
Well, look, I obviously, yes, I'm a first-time director, and yet I've been involved in making films for so long. And you know how many times I saw my own work cut together, and I was like, I wish I could just get in the fucking editing room, or some incredible experience we had, which is just not lifted off, And or when I was producing, working with people who I loved on the Deuce, right? And I would see cuts of things before they would go out, and I would write, paragraphs long essays about why this orgasm could not be cut because it's a feminist piece with the orgasm in it, whatever. But I would have to write them perfectly and be a little funny and whatever to get what I needed. So when I got into the editing room, I was like, oh my God, like it's mine. I can do what I want. And I think I would say one of the most incredible collaborations that I had inside of, a film that had many, many, many exciting collaborations was my work with my editor, Afonso Goncalves. And I don't know if I had the problem of letting go of things. I mean, basically, I watched his assembly and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's not the movie, but that's cool. And, how could he possibly have known how to, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just a random shot. And then we start laying out the film that I'm holding in my arms like this, not that I knew exactly how we would cut it. I don't shoot like that. I hear about people who are cutting a film in their heads, or I know I'm going off now, but I just recently watched Raising Arizona again. And I was like, that was probably in some ways cut in a way as they were shooting, right? You can imagine the storyboards and you can, no, I don't work like that, but I knew that there were these, I did have the story and the move through it in my head and these incredibly beautiful things from my actors. And, but like basically the first thing we did, Fonzie and I, was cut there's like a whole first section of the movie, which is gone. We did it like the first 20 minutes we started working together. I was like, no, it's not good enough, out. There was one scene, that was very difficult for me to let go of, which was with Dagmara Dominczyk, who plays Callie, and Olivia. And it was a beautiful scene and it didn't work in the movie. And that was hard. There was also, the scene, which I love, with Ed Harris and Olivia Colman, where they're cooking octopus and eating octopus at the same time, basically. That was two separate long scenes. And I remember, it was the first time, that's maybe 2/3 of the way into the movie, that we'd come across something. We cut it. It was really, beautifully acted. It was scenes I was really pleased with as a writer. We cut it, Fonzie cut it well. And we looked at it and we were like, this does not work. I don't know why it doesn't work. It's not lifting up. And, Fonzie and I had been talking about Don't Look Now a couple of days before, because it has that tone of like kind of thriller, kind of French movie, kind of horror movie, and he was like, it's interesting to think about in terms of The Lost Daughter, which also has I don't think a similar tone, but also thriller, some horror, some French movie. And I had just watched it and I was like, Fonz, why don't we cut the octopus stuff like the sex scene in Don't Look Now? So that they're, like they're making love and getting dressed at the same time. And he was like, give me a half an hour. And it was actually the only half an hour that I didn't sit there in the whole thing. I was like, cool. And I came back and it was like this beautiful, almost magical sequence.
I have to stop there. I'm just going to say again, such great work. And I really hope you're making another movie again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.